Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special Fight and Focus in the Crosshairs. I'm Josh Shernoff, and today we are talking all things Bound for Glory, which comes to you this Saturday night, October 23rd, live on FITE. My guests today are the World Tag Team Champions of Impact Wrestling, Doc Gallows, Carl Anderson, the Good Brothers. Gentlemen, welcome.
Here we are. Appreciative to be here, ready to rock and roll. We're excited that, we're excited for Impact to be back on the road again, man. We've been in Nashville for so long that it's just cool to be able to be back in a setting like Las Vegas and to be able to be in front of a live, legitimate crowd. Like, we're pretty pumped up.
Yeah, I mean, that has got to be exciting that, when you go out there to perform, there's that you feed off of the crowd. You feed off of that energy that they have. And if they're not there, I mean, this is we've talked about this so many times on these shows over the pandemic that it was just rough. It was no matter what, you're going out there. It doesn't matter what it is you're trying to do. That adrenaline can't go the same way. Gallows, how about you? What are you? Are you feeling ready? You excited for this? Being in front of a crowd and Impact?
It's we're here in Las Vegas right now. We're at Sam's Town Casino. The pay-per-view is emanating from here live 10 p.m. Eastern Saturday night, but you can feel it, man. I was out walking around earlier. I walked to the gym just to be out in the sun, and people were coming up excited about Bound for Glory. So to have a sold-out capacity crowd, a Las Vegas crowd that has energy here, the entertainment could be more pumped. We're sold out for Saturday night for the pay-per-view. We are doing television tapings on Sunday and Monday. There are a few limited tickets left. So if you're in the Las Vegas area, I recommend grabbing them now because they will be gone come show day. But it's pretty electric, and I'm very pumped up for it.
Yeah, I mean, without question, Impact Wrestling has been putting on incredible shows for years and years and years, but now it's the opportunity to be back in front of that crowd, for the crowd to be able to be here and be a part of it. Let's get right to Bound for Glory and talk about it. So you guys you're the Impact Wrestling Tag Team Champions, but you have been all over AEW TV. You've been all over the place, really kind of showing the world that the Impact brand is still here, is still going strong, and all of that, of course, leading up now to Bound for Glory. But people who are following Impact know that for as much as we've been seeing you didn't have a match. There was no match on the card for you guys, and you kind of put your booking hats on and created an opportunity for yourselves, which has now led to a three-way match. So I'm not sure that maybe this was your game plan going into it, but now you will be defending the Impact World Tag Team titles against FinJuice and the Bullet Club. And I know you probably take exception to my referring to them as the Bullet Club, but that is who you're facing.
Line them up, let us knock them down. We thought it was going to be a straight-up tag match. Now it's a triple threat tag match. There's a lot of history there. All those guys should be sending us royalty money for the fact that they can live and eat. FinJuice, they were young. They were young when we were running roughshod over New Japan Pro Wrestling. Now you have the Bullet Club, who's taken the namesake with Hikuleo. Escaping me right now.
Chris Bay.
Chris Bay.
Lost talent. I know exactly who he is. But it's going to be the same old recipe, man. It's a magic killer, a 1, 2, 3, and a just too sweet. We're going to highlight Bound for Glory.
So, I mean, talking about highlighting Bound for Glory, Carl Anderson, I want to hear your thoughts on this match that you have, but I also want to hear your thoughts on the rest of this event. One of the main event, just jumping right into that, Josh Alexander challenging for the Impact Championship against Christian Cage. Now, Christian Cage won that title from your friend Kenny Omega. Are your eyes still on that main event? Are you still looking at that Impact Championship, or have we just kind of moved on to bigger and better?
Dude, I absolutely, I think it's someday down the road, when the time is right, that's the heavyweights. That's what we want, the Impact World Championship, without a shadow of a doubt. It's an exciting main event. And I'm just going to be as honest as possible. Like before we came to Impact, I didn't know who Josh Alexander was. Like, I was in a bubble that doesn't watch much other stuff. And I remember somebody said like you guys would have a good match with the North, and I said, "Who's the North?" Like, because I didn't even know who they were. And I don't mean that's not disrespectful.
Oh,
It's
sure.
just being honest. And but getting here and coming to Impact now and seeing and getting in the ring with those guys, finding out who they were, seeing how good they were, then having a singles match with Josh Alexander and him taking me to the limit, like I realized that this guy can really go. So like in this year of like this weird pandemic COVID wrestling, like Josh has gotten himself to a main event level that it's gonna really culminate at Bound for Glory. And to get into the ring with somebody, like Christian, who I watched, when I was in high school and college, like a guy that, like, I looked up to for a long time, who's now like a friend of mine. But I mean, this is a pretty cool thing. Like for Josh Alexander versus Christian, like if you sit and watch this match, like just know that it's going to be really, really cool. And if you look back at the backstory of it, like the climb of Josh Alexander and then the legendary career that Christian's had, like it's pretty cool. And it puts Impact in a really, 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 really cool spot that it's exciting because I think a lot of people sleep on Impact or a lot of times you talk so much about New York or AEW, you forget that Impact's still doing some really, really cool things. And I think Bound for Glory is a huge chance for people to check it out.
Yeah, I mean, Impact never stopped, and the
Yeah.
way that wrestling is today, with television and whatnot, it's very different than in the, let's say, like the territory days. Now everything's worldwide, everything's accessible. There's so much wrestling out there that sometimes a promotion, if it's not immediately right in your face, can get lost in the shuffle. But Impact has been here the whole time, competing at a top level. Which kind of brings me to a question. I talked before about Christian winning the championship from Kenny Omega, you guys being on AEW TV. The buzzword is the forbidden door, right? So what is your feeling on that when you're here, when you are going around as ambassadors, so to speak? You're the tag team champions. So ambassadors of the Impact brand, but you are on all of these other shows. Do you think that that's a positive, having this opportunity to be everywhere? Do you think that's bringing more eyes? Or do you think that maybe there should be you want people to just kind of say, okay, hey, let's get to Impact and just focus on Impact? Question for
I
either
think
of
it's
you.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, yeah, good, Gallows. Well, I think why the old school thought was, you work for WWE, you can't go here. If you work for AEW, you can't go here. You work for New Japan, you can't do this. You got to clear this. Like that's something that LG wanted. LG and I, when we got the chance to get away from when we got out of when we got canned from New York, and we knew we didn't want to be in that kind of setting and be held down and in like a
Ever.
handcuff way because that's not the way we work. It's not the way we ever wanted to be. That's kind of why we started becoming miserable there. When we got put in our contract that we wanted to work for New Japan Pro Wrestling, we wanted to be able to do these signings here and there. We wanted to be able to do AEW if it popped up. I think it's a great thing. People can have been telling us when they see us at Impact shows, like, hey, I saw you guys on Wednesday. That's amazing. We just did the signing last week in Tennessee. They go, I love watching you guys come out with the Elite. And then I love watching you guys on Impact. Like, so all you're doing is broadening your brand, and then in turn, people will say, who are those guys? Well, they're the Good Brothers. They work for Impact. Like, there's literally no negative to it. You could say, well, you go there and say if I get beat or something, or if I get pinned, like, so what? Like, I'm on that show. People saw it, and they know where I'm at. You come back. It's going to make them go to Impact just for a second. It's like I think broadening all of our horizons. It's not a negative. It can't be.
No, it's brand building, and you got to take your hat off to the Impact management for allowing then embracing all this stuff to happen and the
Sure.
forbidden door being kicked out. Two of the absolute first. I think people were shocked to see us show up on AEW after the speculation and the history there with the prior negotiations. So it was a really cool thing. But it's great for Impact. I mean, think about Bound for Glory. Think about the show that we're going to present for you guys on Saturday. You have AEW top people there. You have Mickey James from the NWA coming in. You have two New Japan tag teams just in our match. Never in the history of wrestling can I remember it being so broad like this. I think it's been saying this a lot, but it's a great time for fans, and it's also a great time for professional wrestlers, the guys and girls inside of the business as well.
It really is. I think, over this past weekend, I had the opportunity to do color commentary for WrestlePro, which was here on FITE.
Yeah.
And one of the matches I got to call, I had the opportunity to call a match for the Impact Knockouts Championship. Deonna Purrazzo is defending. And, to me, I look at that and I think what incredible opportunities. Look, myself as just a commentator, at what other time were you really having that opportunity where you can say, okay, here I am, I do some work on the indies, and now I get to call an Impact Knockouts Championship match. It's great. It's an opportunity for people. Exactly. It's an opportunity for people who aren't in those promotions at a steady, that they're there all the time, an opportunity to work at that level, to be able to call matches at the level. Talent on the indies get the opportunity to work with people. People at Impact get to work at AEW, and likewise, AEW very much wants to be able to come and work to Impact. The crowds are a little bit different. The atmosphere is a little different. I agree with you completely, although I probably would tell you that anyway, just out of fear that I'd run into you. But I think that it's a great thing. I think it's a really good thing. Do you think that as a whole, this is where the business is headed? Do you think that this is just, we're obviously going to keep these individual companies, but do you think that this is a sustainable business model, so to speak? Because everyone wants to talk about competing, the ratings wars, the things like this. And everyone, a lot of the times they're focused on the biggest ones, and they forget that you've got a promotion like Impact Wrestling that's right there putting on some of the best wrestling in the world today. Do you think that this is sustainable, this forbidden door being open, or do you think where it becomes a thing where all of a sudden Impact says, all right, well, listen, we're getting bigger and bigger, and then AEW says, all right, let's calm down a little bit because we're comfortable where we are in our relationship?
I think that it was inevitable that it had to take place because it feels like from an audience perspective, and the three of us can debate this, but it almost feels like it's kind of the WWE fan versus the fan of everything else, whether the Impact, AEW, New Japan, Independent, NWA, CZW, whatever you want to say. Are they the smarter fan base? Maybe, I don't know. But WWE caters to, we were talking about this with an ex-WWE guy just the other day, the way WWE is branded, it's branded for youth. It's branded for the casual viewer. And I think that all these other promotions coming together, the hardcore fan who knows the background of these other people and gets to see them come out, it almost feels like it's like an us versus them in the fans' eyes as well. You know what I mean? Because, I think you should be able to watch all wrestling. We have great friends in WWE. I'm so super happy for Big E right now. Sure. A lot of people there. But it feels like from a fan's perspective, it's kind of like maybe that's kiddie wrestling to them. And you see the guys going back and forth in snippets of these interviews. I just saw, Roman Reigns going back and forth with some AEW guys. That's exciting for fans. It's exciting for me to, sit there on the crapper and read that. I love that stuff. So I think it's great,
I think
and Roman's our buddy too.
Yeah, and that's the thing,
Absolutely.
the fans, there's a time where, I've heard it said nobody hates pro wrestling more than a pro wrestling fan, right? Like nobody tears it apart more. And this fighting with each other where you look at it and you say, hey, we're all professional wrestling fans and it's okay. It's the old adage of, that's why there's vanilla and chocolate ice cream. Right? Like sure. One's not better than the other. There's just different preferences. But I think it's really, it's exciting in a lot of ways. I've always thought of it kind of, people look at this forbidden door being open. And then I want to get back to talking about Bound for Glory, of course. But it's interesting to me. And I love being able to talk to people like yourselves about this because it reminds me almost of like the MCU, the Marvel universe, where you'll have these movies, these big blockbuster movies, and then each individual one will lead up to this major, Avengers, for lack of a better term. And that's kind of what we've seen, where we see things like, in Impact Wrestling here or in Japan over there, like these matches happening, these feuds are developing, people are really passionate about it. And then we see everybody, whether it's on AEW, whether it's at Bound for Glory, whatever it is, we see these culminations of these things where everybody just kind of comes together. And as a fan, that is incredibly exciting. And I just imagine from what you're saying here, as performers, as wrestlers, that's just as exciting, if not more so.
They're giving these companies are giving all of us audience the opportunity to actually see and live out these dream matches that were in the confines of one single promotion. In the past, you couldn't do it. So it's super exciting for everybody.
If you're a fan of wrestling, like just speaking from, I mean, the human aspect, if you're a fan of wrestling, if you like professional wrestlers, like this is the greatest time to be a professional wrestler because and especially if you're good at it, there's so much opportunity to make a living and like to make money. There's so many. I mean, you got New York, you got AEW, you got Impact, like you got New Japan Pro Wrestling. These guys, these are four, and you got Ring of Honor. I mean, there's five right there I just named that can pay you a lot of money. And so it's really exciting for us from that point of view, to be honest. Like you can make legitimately a great living right now. I mean, you really can.
And that's kind of the thing.
And it ain't letting up.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, it's fun. You know, everybody gets into this or should get into this for the love of it. But at some point, you know, you kind of also need to pay your bills. And it's a really nice thing to be able to look at this and say, this isn't something that I'm passionate about that I can only do on the weekends because I have to have that other job. There is an opportunity, as you mentioned, for so many people, so many more maybe than ever before, to make a legitimate living in this. Yeah.
Yes.
There's more contracted.
Yes, and that's
any time in history. We've been doing impact evaluations looking for talent, and I say it all the time. One of you guys could be in the ring with us on national television next week. There's that much opportunity out there, so it's very cool. It's a cool time for everybody.
So let's talk about Bound for Glory. Of course, we mentioned earlier your tag team championship match. You'll be defending it in a triple threat match, three-way dance, however you want to refer to it. It's going to be you against two other teams. You said, line them up, knock them down. Anything in particular that fans should be expecting from this match? Maybe fans who aren't familiar, again, we talked about the Forbidden Door. We talked about people from coming all over the place. Maybe people aren't as familiar with the Bullet Club, as familiar with Finjuice. Anything that you can tell them to get people hyped for this match and explain why this match of these six individuals in the ring with each other is so enticing.
I mean, there's a lot to it. You look at Finjuice, and they were young boys in Japan. When we were running roughshod over there, like I said earlier, but they've really come into their own as performers, as two great professional wrestlers. They've dinged us twice, so there's some retribution there that we're coming to take out at Bound for Glory. And then you look at this newly formed Bullet Club team, and we can get mad about the name of it or not. That doesn't particularly matter. There's a lot of history there too, but Chris Bay, one of the most exciting, young, up-and-coming high flyers in all of Impact Wrestling. He's my son's favorite Impact wrestler, is Chris Bay. But then you look at Hikuleo, the lineage, the Tongan lineage, his father's Haku, his brothers are in the professional wrestling business, but he's the biggest one to come down the pike out of all of them. I look up to this dude. He's 6'8.5", 6'9", whatever it is. He's young kid that I'm sure that when he gets his hands on us, we're going to feel it. So we need to be at the top of our game for that. But it's going to be an exciting match. Multiple man tag matches, when done right, are some of my favorites as a fan to watch. So I think you're going to get the full experience with Bound for Glory Saturday night.
Carl Anderson, you agree with that, of course?
Yeah, 100%. And I'm honestly most excited about just being in Las Vegas in front of a different crowd. For Impact is, like I said, it's been in Nashville in the same studio with no people for a long time, and then they started letting people in the studio. But to get Impact out of that studio setting into this in front of people and just seeing us fired up for a crowd is, I'm telling you, it's gonna be great.
It is. It is absolutely going to be great, and it comes to you live on FITE. That's right here. If you're watching this, you don't have to go anywhere else. Right here on FITE, October 23rd, this Saturday night, 10 o'clock Eastern Time. It is going to be an incredible show. Of course, we've got a match to find a new X Division champion. We've got the women's, the Knockouts tag team titles on the line, the debuting Inspiration. That's going to be an exciting one. Of course, we also have Christian Cage defending the Impact Championship against Josh Alexander and so much more. There's even a match with a number of people that we don't know who's going to be in there, but a gauntlet match to decide a future number one contender spot for the World Championship. So technically, I mean, you guys could go in there, retain your tag titles, and then go, mosey on down to the ring and go try and become a world champion as well.
I mean, this show's completely stacked top to bottom. Every match has meaning, good storytelling behind it. I mean, you look at the build-up for the show. We've been doing media today, and, honestly, we've been traveling and working and doing all the stuff that we're doing. I didn't realize how stacked this card was until they put the cheat sheet in front of me, and I went, damn, as a fan, I want to sit down and watch this one. It's going to be super exciting.
Well, that was going to be my last question. Oh, no, please continue.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No.
I didn't realize how much media. I didn't realize how much media we had today too. So we have a lot of things. Got a lot of things. Also, I want to say, tell Scott D'Amore, if Scott D'Amore will just put like another little zero or something on another check, me and Gallows are jumping that gauntlet, no problem.
Oh, sure. Well, I'll make a call to Scott D'Amore, and I'm sure he'll
appreciate that.
Say, how did you get this number? But the last question I had for you guys was, outside of your own match, what is a match that you individually are most looking forward to watching at Bound for Glory?
I'm excited for two. I mean, I'm excited for all of them.
I should have said one of your names first. Yeah, Carl.
I'll go first.
There you go.
I want to see Deonna Purrazzo versus Mickie James. I think Deonna's a star. I think she carries herself like a star. She's good in the ring. She's a good talker. And then, of course, you got the legendary Mickie James. Like, that's going to be, is Mickie going to come back and take the championship, or is Deonna going to, get rid of her and just go on and keep being a star? That's a cool story. Also, of course, Josh Alexander versus Christian. I mean, Josh's rise, and then, against the legendary Christian. Is Christian going to beat him, and Josh going to keep chasing, or is Josh going to be, given this huge opportunity to carry the championship and carry the company if we're going that way,
And let's not forget that he gave up the Impact X Division title for this opportunity.
Yeah.
So, there's that as well. You talk about, everything to gain, nothing to lose. I mean, he's already lost everything he has, right? He handed it away for this opportunity. So that's gonna be exciting. Mr. Gallows, what are you most looking forward to?
Like I said, I mean, I can't put this card over enough, but when you look at Josh Alexander, what you guys were just talking about, and he dug up and exercised the old school Impact Option C. Mm-hmm. He voluntarily drops the X Division title. The big story here, the iconic Christian with all his tenure and all his history here in Impact Wrestling. But this is the opportunity with the world watching, where Josh Alexander either steps up and becomes the top guy or stays where he's at. So, outside of the story, I think personally this is a huge one for him. I know his family's coming here to Las Vegas. It's probably the biggest match of his entire life. And that's some real pressure when you're going out there and putting it on the line. Am I as good as I said I was? Am I as good as I think that I am? I'm super excited for this match because it's got everything in the recipe that you need to create a great professional wrestling match. And it's going to, no matter the outcome, it changes the course of Impact Wrestling history, I feel like. This is a huge one, and there's no bigger place to do it than Bound for Glory.
Well said. And Bound for Glory, again, it comes to you live Saturday, October 23rd, 10 o'clock Eastern Time. That's 10 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on FITE, straight from Las Vegas, Nevada. It is going to be an exciting card, top to bottom. You do not want to miss it. Thank you so much to Doc Gallows, Carl Anderson, the Good Brothers. Man, it is always good to have the Good Brothers on here on Fight and Focus. So thank you both so much. Best of luck in your match at Bound for Glory.
It's always good to be on FITE. Where Talking Shop Mania 1 and 2 do live forever. If you haven't seen them, you should check them out. The greatest parody in the history of pro wrestling. And while we're plugging stuff, because I love it, each and every Sunday morning, a brand new Talking Shop podcast will drop wherever you listen to podcasts. Myself, the Machine Gun, Carl Anderson, producer Emilio, and New Japan Pro Wrestling's Rocky Romero. We just got our Talking Shop YouTube channel verified. We got new vlogs dropping every single Tuesday. The first one came out this week, and next week we will be highlighting our road to and our experience during Bound for Glory. So please check that out. Like, rate, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And again, it was great to be here on FITE. We love it, and we'll see you guys Saturday night at Bound for Glory.
Awesome. Well, thank you
Thanks,
again.
brother.
We will see everybody October 23rd right here on FITE for Bound for Glory. Thank you very much.